welcome to Chesapeake Today Show. It's your executive director, David Loop.
And Candace Montgomery, Director of Life Enrichment.
Candace, it seems like it's been forever since we've done this.
It does feel like forever.
We got to break off our cobwebs and get back into a little studio scene. But
Most
thank you
definitely.
all if you're joining in and watching this week.
Most definitely.
May's clicking right by
It is.
because now that we're actually almost seeing Memorial Day in a
Right,
week
yes.
plus happening. But I guess I have to reflect back on the last couple weeks.
Sure.
One, I know you had a great trip
We did.
with
to
some
Stanton,
residents
Yes.
to Stanton. So
Yes.
any fun highlights you want to share about that trip?
Oh my goodness, where to even start? Well, we were really happy that the weather cooperated
Yeah.
because there was 2 days in particular that we had outdoor activities,
Mm-hmm.
museums and things like that. So there was some walking involved. And earlier, the week prior, I guess you could say, I had one resident who said, hey, I've been checking the weather and it's supposed to rain. I was like, well, you know, Virginia's kind of fickle, so we'll just kind of wait. And it worked out in our favor, which was nice.
Perfect.
I think the biggest highlight for me was the Shakespeare play. I had never, you learn about these things in school, but I had never seen a play like that. And we saw Midsummer Night's Dream. I don't know if you've seen that or are familiar with it.
Vaguely, but
So only one person in our group had ever seen a Shakespeare play, which is always awesome to have something that's unique to everybody. But I'm glad that we started with seeing a comedy because I don't think that I could have kept a straight face of just their language
yeah.
and just how they remember such a language that's not, common to hear and just have all those for 2.5 hours memorized was astounding.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun. 2 folks from our group got to be on stage, so that provided a whole comedy aspect to
Good.
it, to see their reaction to things. But yeah, it was
That's
a good
great.
trip. Yeah.
And I know you also visited a couple retirement communities.
We did, yes. Yep, we did Bridgewater Retirement Community, which is probably like 30 minutes from Stanton. And then, of course, our sister community, the Glebe. That was very special.
Good.
Getting to meet, counterparts and just, their just scenic area is breathtaking.
Yeah.
So it was cool. It was really nice.
Good.
Yeah. Thanks
Well,
for asking.
So glad it's a great week. People had a great time, so that's wonderful. All things here progressing well. And then we flipped it over to this past week, a busy, good week.
Yes.
I guess what I will say, while you were away, I think is when we had the dedication.
You did, yes. And I saw the pictures.
And just to
yeah,
say that, I think that was the dedication of the waterfall in the Gloucester Commons, really area. And, good attendance, nice refreshments, hot day.
I heard it was
a
like
hot
90.
day.
Was it 90?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, it was.
I saw
wow.
that you guys had brought the tin out, so I was like, ooh, it
And
must
I'm
have been a scorcher.
And I was, in a white shirt, and it was rather moist when I came in.
Right, I bet.
And of course, who was it? Of course, Jack White. Jack said, "Hey, David, it'll improve 20 degrees if you take your tie off."
Oh my gosh.
So that's a Jack
Okay,
White quote.
yeah,
So,
sure.
and he's there with his sleeveless shirt, looking very cool. But nice event. We had, Mary Beth and Jody here from the foundation. Uwe did a nice job. Judy Byers did a reading.
That's right. Yeah. Okay.
Refreshments were nice, just out there, and people really enjoyed it. And for many, they had seen not just the waterfall the first time, but we had presented the little statue. It's very tasteful, nice little placard that's there acknowledging that vision of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. So, so that was good. So that did happen.
Nice, yes.
All right, so that's probably the highlight of the week you were gone.
Yeah.
And then last week we had first responder luncheon.
Yes. Well, even before that, Monday,
that's
with the
right.
nurses' luncheon,
Yeah.
that was really meaningful because I know it's something you've been wanting to see for some time. And it was just beautiful to see. We had 22 residents who were retired nurses who attended. And of course, with our nursing team members, they had to fluctuate during that time because they can't all just come off the floor. But that group of residents understood that. They're like, yeah, they can't just all come have lunch with us. But purposefully placing residents at the table so that they could interact with team members was really cool. So Joe Fudriat in particular came up and said that she was like, just really felt special and acknowledged for that. So that was nice.
Good.
Yeah.
I talked to Virginia Leftwich, and I said,
Oh,
so, hey,
good.
Virginia, I'm sorry I missed it, didn't stop by. I was actually out that
Yeah, you
day.
weren't here that
But she just said, no, it was lovely. And I just think that so appropriate with it being National Nurses Week, Nursing Home
Week,
us
and
acknowledging our clinicians, and bringing groups like that. I think obviously if others can come together,
Most
could be our
definitely.
engineers, could be
Well,
our blank, blank, blank.
Yes, I've had several people say, where's my club? Where's my luncheon? So I have that on my list of really trying to kind of group some people together, whether it's like a quarterly breakfast or just something. People do appreciate that. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, excellent. So then, yep, that was
Then,
Monday.
yes,
Then we
I
get into
know.
our first responders.
Oh my gosh.
And rain held off.
Well, barely.
You
but
shifted
yes.
us under the porte cochere.
Yes.
The girls got on 11 o'clock, hot dogs and hamburgers. Thanks Chef Julian and the team.
Yes, it was
Group of us are all out there, and we
Yeah.
banded together with a number of nice resident volunteers.
Yes, we did. I always like to see that.
And I think in talking to Bruce, because we were counting the black cardboard boxes, that there are a count of 200 of them.
200. I think we actually went through maybe 220.
That would be my
Yeah,
guess.
220. I think.
And
so.
that was many burgers, many hot dogs. And what's your guesstimate on police officers?
You know, I was thinking about that. I would say probably throughout the time, I mean, maybe at least 50, 60
so.
easily.
Because with it, we had several fire trucks that came through.
Yes, I was so
One
happy
was
about
able to
that.
sit, and they were really
Yeah,
relaxed.
they
And of
stayed.
course, the other group, no sooner they
I
got
saw
their
that.
food, they got
yeah,
called
they
out.
had to, spring out.
And then
which
there were a
is
couple
typical.
of support teams from some of the other police. But just a very nice, I think, well appreciated. So, resident, thank you for allowing us to. We do that complimentary to the responders. Team members used a blue chip for $3. Residents were charged $3 on a dining dollars.
Which is a deal.
And it
for
was
sure.
nice little.
Yeah,
Oh, you look at the whole thing, and again, thanks to the volunteers.
most definitely. Yes.
And volunteers, sign your hours in. You volunteered to put those hours
Yes,
down, right?
well, I did. I didn't tell the group this, but hopefully, if they're watching this, I tracked those hours because I was like, they may not think to do this because there's only like an hour slot
Yeah,
for some
yeah.
of them. And then, of course, they, if they wanted to, could take a free lunch for helping. So yeah, and I found it fascinating too that a lot of residents were like, "What's a Chessie coin?" So it was like that was a conversation piece too. So I was like, okay, maybe they hadn't seen one of those before, or
Yeah.
some of them hadn't, I guess.
Very nice.
But yeah, it was great. I was really grateful I have a new contact with the fire department. His name is Captain Dorsey. And I met him through our, when we go take those meals, 9/11. And he was like, we're really itching to do community things, specifically this year. So he made it happen. He was like, I've been talking it in every single meeting that we had. So yesterday, I was glad to see more firefighters than we had the
Yeah.
previous year. So that was a
So
positive.
we've got this one. I know we'll have another breakfast later in the year.
Yes.
You know, is that enough on the cookouts, or are we going to do any other cookouts?
I wanted to do one more, like maybe kind of beginning of typical summer and then maybe at the end.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take a look at the calendar and see if we can make sense to include residents and team members too, because they really were going all out about that yesterday. They were like, oh, we get to be a part of this time.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
Good.
So yeah, we'll see what we can do.
Great. When you mentioned volunteer, I can share with you that Mary Pressick was the perfect ambassador of documenting volunteer hours at resident council meeting last week.
Nice. Okay.
So she brought up to all, she had here's the volunteer cards, made sure everyone on council,
Good.
90-minute meeting, put this down.
Okay.
And she mentioned that you were very gracious and also receiving just even paper
Oh, yeah.
information, whatever.
Emails,
and
whatever, yeah. Mhm.
she very kindly urged all resident leaders and everyone to say, we shouldn't be in the lower echelon of volunteer hours. We have wonderful volunteerism. Many of you go out to the museums and so many places in this area, your churches, yes, here. So for us to shine, as Mary was suggesting.
Yes.
So
Because people are
anyways.
doing it. It's just we got to get in that rhythm of tracking it.
Yep.
So
And a lot of easy
we'll
ways
get
to
there.
do it. And,
Yeah.
you know, I think what she was saying, just, it's almost like just, hey, write down maybe on a card, resident council, maybe every 6 months, just say, okay, I've had 9 hours of resident council meetings, and turn this in. And maybe you just compile a card, and when you feel you've got it full, turn it in, you start a new one.
Right.
Whatever you want to do.
I have a couple of people, I think Faye Mayberry, a lot of our worship and spiritual life folks who track a lot of hours, they do that. They kind of just do, here's my monthly or, you know, every 2 months type card, because it can be a lot, you know, just depending on how much residents volunteer
Great.
to fill out individual cards.
Good.
So that whatever works.
Alrighty, so I think we've quickly caught you up. Had a communications coffee last week. Had a handful of folks on that. Always a good conversation. Already talked about resident council. So heading into G-Mini, the week of the 19th and 20th. Goodness.
I know.
Okay.
So we've got several big things happening this week. So Kicking off the week on Monday, we do have our Rosie's trip, which is a monthly staple now, 11 a.m., leaving from the Hampton entrance. Then on Tuesday the 21st, there is a lunch trip to the Cove Tavern, which I know has been a resident suggestion, leaving at 11:45 a.m. I want to say that, is that in City Center? I feel like I've heard of that. Possibly we've had a Christmas thing there
we
before.
did it,
Yeah,
yep.
okay, I do remember that. And then that afternoon, there's a Reading and Reminiscing Club. That's with Alice Boring, resident Alice Boring at 1:30, and that's in the Chesapeake Room. And then that evening, there's a 7 p.m. entertainment, Yorktown Corral. On the 22nd, this is something new. So in the past, we've done a dolphin tour, but it's been with Rudy Tours. Now the Virginia Aquarium offers one. So it's a whole different ballgame of what kind of educational things that they can offer. So that's leaving at 12:30 from the Hampton entrance.
So when you say a tour, you'll be by bus to a
To a boat.
launch?
Yes.
And then
yes.
out on a boat?
And then out on the boat. Yep. Guaranteed dolphin sightings, which is always a good thing. And then the 23rd, we have a trip to the Torgler Museum, so close by here. That's leaving at 10 a.m. from the Hampton entrance. Town Hall, it's that time already, 2 p.m. in the Chesapeake Room. Birthday bash right after that, 7 o'clock, retired musicians band in the Chesapeake Room. And then the 24th, we have a quick lunch trip to Chick-fil-A at 11:30, Hampton entrance. And then we're doing the National Poppy Day. So this is something where it's the Friday before Memorial Day, and you can stop by right in front of the cafe, and we'll have some poppy flowers that we can hand out, and folks can just pin that to remind them and wear it for Memorial Day. That afternoon, I'll have Bucky here at 3 p.m., and then we just have a movie that Saturday, Chariots of Fire, at 7 p.m. in the Explorer Room. So a full week.
And the 25th, that Saturday, then opens up to Memorial Day weekend.
It does.
25th, 26th, 27th.
Yes,
I think I'm
yes.
manager on duty on Saturday, so I'll be around.
Okay.
So see how that all goes.
Yeah, it's a full week. Most definitely.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So, other things, there'll be a lot of information this week in Town Hall. So we'll update you on projects and timelines and parking lot striping and electric car charging stations and all that.
It's coming. Yeah.
Bruce and we'll give you updates on how they're doing with their Tuesday tastings and some other just quality temperature initiatives that I think are well received. So
Good.
that's happening. So that will make for a very good week as we lead into Memorial Day. I'm sure a special
Definitely.
menu
I know.
of grilled and cooked items, and that would be good too.
Yes. Most definitely. And then before you know it, May's going to be over, and hello, June.
Yeah, absolutely.
Summer months.
Very fine.
Yeah.
So I think for today, that we do have a special segment coming up that's very intriguing as you learn the back of the house area and, well, a place where residents like to hang out. So that would be good.
Yeah.
When I heard you say about your Chick-fil-A visit this coming week, I was also just thinking about the other day. So I want to do a little.
Oh my gosh.
Can we do a little trivia here?
You should. You
So
should.
I'm
I think
gonna
residents really
help
get into
you.
this.
So
yeah.
this week, back in 1940, what restaurant opened up in San Bernardino, California, that was originated by two brothers? What's the clue? Last name begins with an M. So, what's the answer to that, Candace?
You want me to
Go ahead,
say?
go ahead.
Okay. McDonald's.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then the next question, and I'll ask them, and we'll see.
We'll see what they say.
See if
Okay.
you remember the answer.
Okay.
It originally had what was its menu theme?
Oh gosh, what was this?
Because I used a
my
clue.
goodness.
You could. This is very popular foods in Kansas City and the
Oh,
Carolinas.
that's right. It was
So, what type of food did they first serve?
barbecue. Yeah, that's
Barbecue.
right. Which is so unexpected.
And then
but
in 1948, they started to serve hamburgers.
yeah.
And their menu started out with 4 items. So you can see what 4 items would have McDonald's first menu have been.
yeah.
So in 1948,
Right.
so we think what?
Hamburgers for sure. It
Cheeseburger.
was cheeseburgers, yeah.
But it was a different type of potato. Cut
Yeah, it was chips.
Chips.
And then pie.
and pie. That's right. So
Did
those
you
4
specify
things.
the pie?
They
Was it-
didn't say. It just
okay,
said pie.
Probably
so it
apple
could have been,
pie,
yeah, I would
figured.
assume. So
Just
those
'cause
were
they
the
have
first
that,
4
yeah.
items. And I think way back in 1948, the price of a hamburger was 15
Oh my
cents.
gosh, I can't even
that's interesting.
imagine that.
Yeah. So then we talked through the history of McDonald's, and I was walking through, okay, because it became clearly after 1955 when Ray Kroc acquired it for like $2 million, the franchise rights, and then he opened his first franchise in the Chicagoland area. It's called Des Plaines. It's not how when you read it, it's French, but it's DES Plains, but Des Plaines. So that was one of McDonald's. It's now a museum. But then you go to the franchises that start sprouting up all over the United States, and these franchise owners were the ones who created the new features.
Special things, yeah.
So Pittsburgh, special sauce. So
right,
the
yeah.
Big Mac,
So right.
Big Mac was invented in Pittsburgh. Quarter
Yeah.
Pounders in California.
California.
I think also in California was the Egg McMuffin,
Oh, that's right. Okay.
and that was done. And then the other thing that I was testing people on, I said, when you get a Coke at McDonald's, does a Coca-Cola taste any different?
Yes, that was so fascinating to me because Marcus, my husband, has always had this theory about this, and I was like, oh, that can't be.
Yeah.
But I think there is some science behind it.
So
Sounds like
what I read and what I learned, do you recall the answer to this?
it was stainless steel.
That's how they ship their
Yeah.
syrup.
Wow.
Whereas many other vendors, including like our
just-
product here, our
yeah.
Pepsi product, it comes in bags. And then it's mixed with CO2 and water, and it becomes then the Pepsi that we drink, or in this case, Coca-Cola.
Interesting.
So there could be, I think we're all going to peel our eyes next time we're in McDonald's. Do we see any metal vessels holding
Yeah.
Coke syrup?
That's
So then
interesting.
we validated there is a reason it tastes different.
Yeah, fascinating.
Yeah. So anyways, that was just, we have some fun. We do a little trivia once in a while with management group, and this week just jumped into the McDonald's team because it was celebrating, 84 years.
Got to be something like that. Yeah.
84 years from the first opening of the barbecue stand
Right.
of the McDonald brothers.
Have you seen that movie? I think it's called Founder.
The one with
With-
Tom Hanks. Is it Tom Hanks or somebody else?
It's somebody else, but it's about the two brothers
Okay.
and kind of that whole story. It's
Yeah.
fascinating just to see kind of how they started and then how things transitioned so it's a good movie. We'll have to
Yeah.
show that.
And
on that.
I'm still doing a little more research because one of the residents that I had served when I was in Chicago worked with Ray Kroc at McDonald's.
wow.
And he was an attorney himself, and he may have been part of a legal team, but he was part of the group that helped open the door to many of their franchises internationally. And he just told me the story, and I remember it like yesterday. He said, oh, yes, often we'd be in another city traveling, and after dinner, Ray would insist that we'd talk business, but I had to go to wherever his suite was, and he would play on a piano, and he also would smoke his cigarettes. And he just said those are the two things I had to remember about Ray Kroc. Now I've
Wow.
seen pictures of Ray smoking.
Really?
In
Okay.
different, the piano part and all of that.
Huh.
I know he worked with him, so it's just a fascinating
Fascinating.
experience.
Yeah.
So,
Too
all right,
cool.
so that's a little trivia. So some of those things
I
about McDonald's,
know.
we just challenged you on for the moment. All righty. Well, hang on for the next few minutes because you're going to meet some interesting resident and maybe even another one you'll see a glimpse of. And we'll talk about a special place here at the Chesapeake.
Most definitely.
So thanks for joining us. Take care.
See you next time.
Welcome to this special edition of the Chesapeake Today Show. When we're not in my office, we're not in a studio setting, but we're right here in the workshop area or hobby shop of the Chesapeake in the community center. And I'm with Tom Sayer. Tom, great having you with me today.
Glad to be here.
And Tom, I have to go back in time, and you know some of the story because you had arrived about when I came to the
Just
Chesapeake.
about, yeah.
But back in 2017, I remember to this day a fond conversation with Hank Sheely. And Hank had come to me and said, David, I'd like to see what we can do in helping to revitalize the wood shop, really focus on the residents and take it to a new use. And boy, did Hank, getting you, Tom, involved, getting Harold Byers involved, and there have been some other gentlemen and women who've come here over the years.
Yep.
But it went from being sort of a catch-all place where sometimes maintenance men would come in here and use some of the equipment. We had some contractors come in here. It's really become dedicated space to some wonderful projects
Yeah.
that residents are doing.
Yeah.
So Tom, think back to those times. I know when you first got involved, what was your first impression and your early beginnings with the wood shop?
Well, we didn't have enough equipment. So that was our first venture is to get more equipment. For instance, we got a new lathe, got a new bandsaw, a drum sander over there. I bought some of my own equipment from home, the router over here and the big sander there and another sander over there. So we, over a little bit of time, not too long, we got it pretty well equipped. So we can pretty much do anything in here. As you can see,
Some great
Harold's made
examples. Oh my gosh.
Harold's made the nativity scenes
Yeah.
and the truck. And that takes a huge amount of time.
So why don't you just walk us through it? I'm just going to
Yeah.
use like the nativity scene as an example. You know, I had a privilege of purchasing one of these last year at Christmas time. Of course, he gave me too many stain choices, so it really was tough for me to make a decision, but I made one. Why don't you just, what pieces of equipment would be used to produce this?
Well, a lot of it has to do with Harold's jigsaw back there. You
Yeah.
can see it in the back.
Yep.
It's a big
Directly
machine.
behind.
It's a DeWalt, a beautiful machine. And Harold cuts out some of the things from there. And then, of course, we use the table saw,
That's going to cut the straight pieces
Right.
and edge those and clean those up.
band saw, that, sanders,
Sanders.
drum sander. All of these equipments are used on that one little
So like
item.
4 different pieces of equipment minimally right there, let alone sometimes, you know, you've got drills and you've got some other things for the
Yep.
connections. So just fascinating. It's quite an assembly
It really
for
is.
that.
It really is. It takes a lot of work, and a lot of different machines that have their own unique abilities, so to speak.
Now, the bowl here, we're looking at this, and I see
Yeah.
it's right now at 4 tiers, a lot of pieces of wood. So that's one that you're building,
Yeah.
is that correct?
Yeah, I build them from these little segments. Number one is you have to buy the wood. Okay. Then you plane the wood down to the thickness that you want it. Then you come on the table saw and you cut them to the width that you want them. Then I have a jig over there behind my little buggy that cuts the angles for me, so that they all go around here. There's 12 segments to each ring, and of course they have to fit together just perfectly. And
And-
after I get that done, remember it looks like I don't have one that I. Anyway, it looks like this.
And it sort of has some rough shapes. It's
See
got
how
some
the roo-
points.
yeah, right.
Has some points to it.
Well, I cut around on the bandsaw when I have another template I put over the top. Go around the bandsaw to get this
Rounded.
rounded, and then put it on the clamp for the lathe, and then I have many
Tools?
of the tools for the lathe that I shape them. They're all different.
Amazing.
I've made hundreds, and they're all
So
different.
it's cutting.
So-
Just typical wood glue, or what type of glues are you using on that?
We use Tight Bond 3.
Okay.
Works really well.
And then you're clamping in between the different pieces?
Right. We clamp them this way,
Mm-hmm.
and then we clamp the rings together.
And then you take that,
that.
geometric shape, which has got some sharp angles, and then you're using 2 or 3 other tools to form it into a bowl, smooth
Exactly.
surface.
Which I should have brought one from the cabinets. We have them out there, but I didn't. Anyway,
Well, it's almost good for residents to see it in a rough version, because seeing it in a rough version, they clearly see how beautiful it is when it's done. All right,
Well-
now I go over to here, and I'm looking at Harold's truck.
Oh.
My gosh, a dual-axle dump truck with 2 horns on it, color-coded, grill trim. Kenworth would be impressed with that.
Yep.
They'd probably want that in their showroom.
they would. And of course, what Harold actually did, that's a replica of an big Army dump truck that they have over years. And of course, he's Army. But the unique small pieces that he puts together, just the curve of the headlights, for instance, here, the hours and hours that he spends just doing those ones.
Well, I'm
It
looking
is
at the
absolutely-
tires alone. The tires alone
Yeah.
have been cut and laid. That's giving you a circular rim. Then you've got the wheel itself with bolts. Incredible. The mirrors aren't one piece, but literally 6 pieces of wood
Yeah.
just to create the
Yep.
side mirrors.
Of course, we buy the wheels. They're
You do?
We don't
okay.
make those.
Well, I was going to give him
That's
credit for that because I'm pretty impressed. But beautiful. So now I know you also have made many toys.
Yeah, we have a ministry.
And
toy
it's
ministry.
been wonderful because
Yep.
you've made them, they've been sold, you shared some money with foundation and other things. So how
Well-
many toys type items have you?
Well, the ministry I started probably 25 years ago was making these small toys, and you can see them in the cabinet there. Now I don't sell those necessarily. Those we have my church has an Appalachia service project, and so I send about 100 toys out there to the West Virginia or Kentucky Hills where they're very unfortunate
Yeah.
people, so they have a little bit better Christmas. And I've done that for years and years.
Yeah.
And here, some of the residents have bought them. When they buy them, I share the money with the benevolent fund. On these now, because the woods are so very, very expensive, these are all very exotic woods, so to defray my costs, I probably have $50 worth of wood in that one bowl right here.
Wow.
Of wood. That's how expensive that
That's
exotic
amazing.
stuff is. So I sell the bowls for $60. I give 30 of it to the benevolent fund, and I keep 30 to defray part of my cost.
Yeah.
Oh, Harold went and got the.
Well, that's a wonderful, and again, how you give back in the ministry of it.
Yeah.
So as Harold, go ahead and hand it to us. You can hand it, bring it up here, because getting you on screen isn't bad as well.
And this is more of what Harold does too, right there.
Yeah.
We
So-
already went through your truck.
Yeah, the truck is wonderful. So again, I mean, I'm looking at the intricacy of this.
Yeah.
And with your bowl, I mean, look at that dimension difference. How much you've rounded it off.
Yeah.
And then you've what? Is that a plywood
And then the
base?
same thing in the inside.
And
No,
then
this
it's
is
a
maple.
solid wood.
Yep, this is maple. And
Okay.
of course I sign them, crafted by whatever. And
So is one of those going to end up in the Smithsonian someday? I think that truck could. I think
Maybe
they
I
all
will.
could. Wow. That was,
the inside we put tung oil so it's safe for food. The outside is tung oil. I mean, this is butcher buck oil.
butcher block. Very
Something
nice.
like mineral oil and that kind of stuff.
And this piece that I'm holding up, I mean,
That-
I'm seeing
That's one of Harold's babies.
the now what type of bird is that?
That's a pheasant. isn't it?
Pheasant? And-
No, is it a pheasant?
pheasant,
Yeah.
and and he cut into walnut wood, so it's a
Yeah.
beautiful deep wood. But if you just look at how detailed and how this still has structural integrity, just beautiful art. I cannot even imagine producing this because where the blades are coming in and out,
Right.
and you're cutting that small section, incredible.
And he does that on that jigsaw he has back there, and it's incredibly patient work.
Yeah.
And Harold is patient. I could not do
Yeah,
anything like
amazing.
that.
So, Tom, we have to strum up some business. The fact that we've got 3 dedicated fellows that have done so much here, you've had others come in and out. If a new resident has worked with some wood, has had a hobby, what's your invitation to them, and what might they experience, or how could you even help them?
Well, we could help them in the fact that we invite them into the shop. If they have, and there are several people here who have experience in woodworking and who do a pretty good job of that themselves. Hank will just give them a waiver, and they can come in here and use any of the equipment that they want. And we have the wood lathe, which is very popular. We have the big bandsaw, little bandsaw, and a chop saw back over there. We have a regular sander there, and then what they call a drum sander. And drum sander is where we put these through to make them smooth, like that. And Harold does the same thing with those.
Yeah.
And then we have a router over here in the backside. People who want to make different moldings and that kind of stuff. And then sanders and grinder. We are pretty well equipped.
I would
and then
say
Harold
so.
has the jigsaw and back.
And I always get a fond look at this. Reminds me of my own home. In my wood shop, I have cabinets from my parents' kitchen from 1965. I have some cabinets of homes that I've renovated. So around my workshop at home, I've got like 5 generations of kitchen cabinets. And that sort of happens, and I see that here too.
Exactly.
But between the storage, the workspaces, it's great. One of the things I think we have to say in that is, if you have an interest of a hobby, this is far beyond my ability. But what I would feel comfortable doing is coming down for the camaraderie, learning from you all. My basic skills, I built a bookshelf. I could probably build a little sailboat and a few things because I can use a compound miter.
Yeah.
I can use a table saw. I can use a scroll saw. Limited. But just to start there, it's okay.
Oh, yeah,
I could
yeah,
be
yeah,
real
yeah.
simple in what I produce, and it's just joyful. And there is something about that smell of wood,
Yeah.
and then you get into the finishes. It's
Mainly,
very
you have
enjoyable.
to be safe.
Safety
that's the
is.
first thing.
Well, I think with that waiver, it's also between you gentlemen who know this so well that to have that check off and just to guide
Yeah.
people. And again, that's what we want: safety here. And again, lovely shop.
Yeah, and probably the most important implement that we have, tool we have, is this table saw. I forgot to mention that, but that is the most important part of everything. We use it for almost every project you do, no matter what it is. Between Harold's stuff and
Yeah.
my,
Well, and I look at this one, and I look to it. It's Rockwell. It's a 10-inch. The Henry Walke Company. Any guesstimate how old this saw might be?
that is a good question.
I
Because
mean, I'm
it has
guessing it
been
could
around
be
a long
in the
time.
50s.
It could be.
And I look at like my table saw at home, a Craftsman, newer. It's good, it's safe, nothing built like this.
Well, that sander there is the same thing. It's an old thing. It's been around a long time, and we thought it was on its last legs for the last 6 years, and it's still motivates.
Still working. Well, I know that between Candace and Life Enrichment, her work with you all, supporting this, helping any way to advance it.
Yeah.
We've been very supportive, trying to help with the motors and et cetera, just to keep the shop moving and going. But it would be so rewarding to see a new group join you and continue this. I'll call it a ministry.
Well-
It's almost a ministry. It's a hobby. It's an interest group. It's
Yeah.
so much.
But we have a lot of other people who have worked here and who still come in here and do things, and they still have lockers. Al Kunkel for one thing, for one person, Pete, what's his name? I can't think of his last name.
Pete Lawson.
No,
Bob Averill.
yeah, Bob Averill
Yeah.
comes in and works,
Yeah.
and so there are quite a few people
Yeah.
who come in and do small things,
Yeah.
and kind of things of their own. They don't participate in a big
And I think that's
project
good
like
to
we
know
do. But
because they can do it. I know Harold is reminding us, holding up something that's been very favored by residents is that shelf, that corner
why don't you
shelf
come over, Harold?
that could be produced. And again, this is something even a newer wood shop participant could be taught how to make because it's got some shape to it. It's got
Yeah.
cutting, it's got sanding, painting. You've got a hook into it that's probably used for its production once you get it. So again, whenever a resident moves in, or if they want one of those little shelves, it's something that often is requested through the wood shop.
yeah.
So that's just a great
And
other
Har-
example.
Harold generally makes those for him,
Mm-hmm.
or Bob Averill, one of the two. Because I don't do that, but yeah.
Making one for Nancy Lewis. So Nancy,
But
if you're
the thing-
watching, your shelf is on the assembly line.
But they're not standard. Almost every apartment is different. It has to be measured differently,
Mm-hmm.
and so they pretty much like everything else. Every one of them is
Absolutely can be.
different.
Good. Well,
So
to me, when you look at and for someone to come down and just get orientated to this room and to learn the many tools. I had a grandfather who was a carpenter, and I have some of his tools, and from old levels to planers, and I just marvel. In fact, I have a little spot
Yeah.
in my workshop at home. It's my antique section.
oh, great.
But
Yeah.
but I know their quality, and
Oh, yeah, yeah,
and just neat tools to have, and so many of us have seen that from a parent, a brother, that maybe a sister who's enjoyed it, had the tools, had fun with it. Yeah, we do, as you said, you've shared your equipment. There have been times when we've accepted donations. It's only going to be for specific items that we would have room for, that the group here would say yes to it. It's an upgrade, it's a replacement,
Yep.
whatever. But donations are possible. And I just want to put that out there because someday if that drum sander does get on its last leg, It'd be
Yeah.
great to have a nice donation lined up to replace it.
I'll tell you the story about 2 of the machines, but I'm not sure I should. But I just, like the lathe, I just went out and bought it with my own funds. And then I got to my mind, I said, you know what? Let me try something. So I took the invoice and I gave it to Kim. Remember Kim? Mm-hmm. And the next thing I know, LifeSpire sent me a check for for what I paid the lathe.
Well,
So
and I think it's
the lathe
something-
belongs to the shop now.
That's good. And
And,
I think that's something that Candace would use her discretion as she's able. And
Yeah.
it's no different than here or things she may be considering upstairs in the art studio.
Yeah.
You know, I think our interest is to make sure we're well equipped, safely equipped, and it's great to see it used.
Well, there's one really important thing that we missed was our dust collection system. That I can blame you for getting it maintained for us and getting it back online for us.
Is that a
because
blame
it's
or-
very expensive?
Yeah.
Because we had to have a crane go over the top to lift the motor out and put a new motor in, and that is
Yeah.
very expensive. The motor itself is not all that bad.
Well, and the fact that
But-
we've replaced 2 of those in recent years shows the administrative support we've given you
Yep.
because we realize this
Exactly.
is an important program. And again, all the more reason for more folks to participate.
Yeah, and that's an important, for me, it's an important because of my lung problems, so it's
Yep.
really, and we use that whenever the machine is running, that's running,
Good.
so.
Well, I think what we've come to realize is that in this approximately 800 square foot of space, there's some wonderful equipment. There's some excellent projects going on. There can be people from different backgrounds use it, participate. They can meet with Hank, meet with either of you or Harold, learn more about it with Bob, want people to be safe. And again, seeing the finished product, just truly amazing.
Yep.
And whether it's simple or very, very detailed, it's all impressive. So Tom, I appreciate your ongoing being an ambassador, utilizing this room. You know, from your church and the ministry that you've done beyond to Appalachia, things that have happened here, just thank you. And likewise to Harold. Harold, the things you've made, and when I saw those items for sale at our recent, we call it either a craft show or a bazaar, just neat to see us have things from here sold. And just truly meaningful that such gifted men, such gifted women, whether it's fabrics or wood, making these is really special.
And we did have one woman here.
Yes.
Judy Williams came in and did some things.
Yeah, good. Well, it may be the perfect time because if this is the call Tom's waiting for, he's hoping to
Ooh, it
learn
might be.
of a new great
Hello.
grandchild. So we may have fresh
Yeah.
news on the air, and we'll hope all are well.
Okay,
So I'll let him take that call. We'll go ahead and sign
okay,
off,
thank you.
and he'll keep you posted.
Right,
as-
great, thanks. Bye. Bye.
Still waiting?
Still waiting, but
All right.
her contractions are,
Well, we're getting a moment by moment from the delivery room. And again, this is a
Yeah.
granddaughter.
be my great-granddaughter.
Great.
I have great-grandson coming from my granddaughter.
Yeah, how wonderful.
So-
Well, again, thanks, Tom, for your
Yeah,
time today.
just,
Thanks for this introduction. Harold, thank you for being a part of everything. And we'll see you soon. Thank you.